Goethe's Doppelganger. Johann Wolfgang von Goethe, 1749 to 1832, is considered the most important German literary figure of modern times. He was a poet, playwright, theatre director, novelist, scientist, critic, artist, and this is his painting Allée in der Villa Borghese, and a statesman. To sum up his achievements in a short video is impossible, but for example, his body of work includes epic and lyric poetry, prose and verse dramas, memoirs, literary and aesthetic criticism, treatises on botany, anatomy and colour, and 4 novels. In addition, numerous literary and scientific fragments and over 10,000 letters written by him are extant, as are nearly 3,000 drawings. Goethe had the largest private collection of minerals in all of Europe. By the time of his death, he had collected 17,800 rock samples. Goethe also contributed to the planning of Weimar's botanical park and the rebuilding of its Ducal Palace. Have you wishes without number? Watch the promise of the dawn. Lightly you are wrapped in slumber. Shed this husk and be reborn. Venture boldly. Hesitation is for lesser men when deeds are a nobler mind's creation. All his enterprise succeeds. Goethe and his spirituality. Goethe had a persistent dislike of the Roman Catholic Church, characterising its history as a hodgepodge of fallacy and violence. But whilst materialists rub their hands in glee, thinking they have some kind of supporter in Goethe, they would be entirely and totally wrong. For Goethe was a deeply spiritual man, with an unshakable belief in the realm of spirit and a God that is self-evident in nature. Goethe. Autobiography. Generally, natural religion requires no faith. The persuasion that a great creating, regulating and guiding being conceals himself, as it were, behind nature to make himself comprehensible to us, such a conviction forces itself on us all. Spiritually, he could not have been more fervent and passionate. We have a video on the symbolism of the moth. See the video. And Goethe was a moth, longing to leap into flame. Tell it to the wisest only, for the mob will mock such learning. I will praise a living creature that can long for death by burning. As the candle's quiet gleaming cools your nights of hot surrender, you are touched by strange emotion, born again as you engender. You have passed beyond the shadows, snatched aloft you shall discover new desire and higher union. Thrall of darkness now is over. Distance tires you not, nor hinders. On you come with fated flight, till, poor moth, at last you perish in the flame, in love with light. Goethe and his pursuit of divine love. Goethe was driven by love. He appears to have been perpetually falling in love, being in love, losing love, or suffering unrequited love. His whole life appears to have been based on a series of traumatic and passionate love affairs, one after another. But for Goethe, love was the door to the divine. He even said, "Love and desire are the spirit's wings to great deeds." And the experience we have included here, which is a strange mixture of bilocation and prophecy, occurred in 1770 when Goethe fell in love with Frederica Brion. After 10 months, he terminated the relationship, and its effect on Frederica was traumatic. Apart from viewing his doppelganger, the love affair and traumatic ending appears to have inspired several of his poems: Willkommen und Abschied, Sessenheimer Lieder, and Heiderslein. The short novel The Sorrows of Young Werther, published in 1774, is perhaps the key to understanding Goethe himself, and even Faust. It describes an unhappy romantic infatuation that ends in suicide. Goethe admitted that he shot his hero to save himself. Its central hero is an obsessive figure driven to despair and destruction by his unrequited love for the young Lottie. The fact that Werther ends with the protagonist's suicide and funeral, a funeral which no clergyman attended, made the book deeply controversial upon its anonymous publication. Werther was Goethe. He sought spiritual divine love through earthly human love. The problem was that he had a habit of hurting those he professed to love. Charlotte Buff-Kastner became famous because the 23-year-old poet Goethe, at the time still almost unknown, fell passionately in love with her in the summer of 1772. She was Lottie. This love could not be fulfilled as Charlotte was already promised to Johann Christian Kastner, whom she subsequently married. Her understandable rejection inspired Goethe to write his emotionally driven Die Leiden des jungen Werther, The Sufferings of Young Werther, published in 1774. This novel took Europe by storm. Werther became a cult figure for a whole generation, but was also criticised as provocative and a threat to customary morality. And possibly why Mephistopheles has a leading role in Faust, as someone has to represent temptation and cruelty, given the way he treats Gretchen in Faust, and the way he appears to have treated Frederica. A description of the experience. I will use Camille Flammarion's description of the background to this experience and then switch to Goethe, although the accounts do not differ in any way. Camille Flammarion, from Death and Its Mystery. Those who have read Goethe's memoirs have seen the account of his love affair with the charming daughter of the pastor of Sessenheim, near Strasbourg, an impassioned enough idyll, moreover, and one that left an unforgettable memory in his heart. When the hour of farewell had come, Goethe was obliged to go back to Germany, and his soul, possessed by the little French girl. That was in 1771. They wept inexhaustible tears, but part they must. We can now switch to Goethe's own account, which can also be found quoted in Wikipedia in English. Near the end of Book 11 of his autobiography, Dichtung und Wahrheit, Poetry and Truth, 1811 to 1833. Amid all this pressure and confusion, I could not forego seeing Frederica once more. Oh, those were painful days, the memory of which has not remained with me. When I reached her my hand from my horse, the tears stood in her eyes, and I felt very uneasy. I now rode along the footpath towards Drusenheim, and here one of the most singular forebodings took possession of me. I saw, not with the eyes of the body, but with those of the mind, my own figure coming toward me on horseback, and on the same road, attired in a dress which I had never worn. It was pike grey, echt grau, with somewhat of gold. As soon as I shook myself out of this dream, the figure had entirely disappeared. It is strange, however, that 8 years afterward I found myself on the very road to pay one more visit to Frederica in the dress of which I had dreamed, and which I wore not from choice, but by accident. However, it may be with matters of this kind generally, this strange illusion in some measure calmed me at the moment of parting. The pain of quitting forever noble Alsace, with all I had gained in it, was softened, and having at last escaped the excitement of a farewell, I, on a peaceful and quiet journey, pretty well regained my self-possession. One wonders what Frederica might have said. The final years. Even in 1823, at 74 years old, having recovered from a near-fatal heart attack, Goethe fell in love with the 18-year-old Ulrike von Levetzow, whom he wanted to marry, but because of the opposition of her mother, he never proposed. Their last meeting in Carlsbad on 5th of September 1823 inspired him to write the famous Marienbad Elegy, which he considered one of his finest works. Goethe eventually died, aged 82, on the 22nd of March 1832 in Weimar, Germany. And on his death, his startled relatives, friends and servants heard celestial music. We have a link to the text of this in the description below. Who shall envy me such pleasure? Who would shorten its full measure? Let him note, in words upsoaring, softly knocking and imploring, poets ever haunt heaven's portal, seeking, finding life immortal.